we are live and we are excited. The Texans are 6-3, taking on the 7-1 Detroit Lions at the amazing open door NRG Stadium. It is going to be live. It is a home game of the century. It's Sunday Night Football, and we are excited to get it started. I'm just going to do my Saturday night pregame hype. The pregame hype I'm going to talk about is going to be basically just talking a few things. We're going to do a little intro. We're going to talk about the Texans offensive line. We're going to go into Nico Collins and the injury report. We're also going to talk about a little bit of the mental game that the Texans are going to have for this game. And then we're going to talk about the stats and break down the betting lines coming into this game. It's been a crazy week. The Texans are going through it. Oh, a little bit of a technical difficulty. The Texans are going through it, but will the Texans respond this week? It's going to be a game, and I'm excited. As a Texans fan, you should be excited. As a Lions fan, you should be excited to see what's coming this week. The Lions are prepared, they're ready, and they will be coming to NRG Stadium. If you're Hold on one second. If you are in Houston, you should be excited. If you are with the Texans, you should be excited. Trying to get the ring light ready. I am excited. So let's get into it. I have theme music, but I don't even want to touch the theme music. I really want to get into this spill. So let's get into it. The Lions are 7-1 versus the Texans 6-3. The game will be played on Sunday Night Football. You can't be mad at Sunday Night Football. The Texans are historically good at home this year, but historically, the Texans have struggled on primetime football games. This will be a chance for the Texans to improve and kind of just change the trend of them not being able to perform in a primetime football game. The first note for the Texans that I want to kind of just talk about, and I've been seeing, is the Texans O line. Will the Texans O line improve? There's a lot of questions on the Texans O line, and you just have to go with them because the Texans have struggled, and have they actually improved this O line? The Texans made a major change in taking Kenyon Green, benching him. Well, now he's on injury, the IR, and now they're moving Juice Scruggs to left guard and Jared Patterson to the center, or vice versa. We'll see how they come out because they have been extremely secretive with their injuries reports and moves. With this change, is there going to be enough to solve the problems that the Texans are continuously having in their protection? I think this is just kind of one of the trends you see in the frustration that you see from CJ. CJ Stroud has been visibly frustrated, threw his helmet down last game early. So now can the Texans make these improvements and kind of get to average? If the Texans offensive line is average, the Texans will be in a better place. And that's what I want to see from the Texans. All I need to see is an average O line. The Texans are a good team. They just have terrible offensive line, and kind of which goes into the play calling. It's hard for a coach to call nice plays when you have an offensive line struggling as much as the Texans. So I want to see, is the offensive line actually improved with these changes? Will they have a different mentality? Will they have more grit? That is what we will see tomorrow night on Sunday Night Football. As I keep on going and keep progressing into this kind of offensive line, it's kind of more than the offensive line for the Texans. The Texans have to focus on just uh, keeping the Lions contained. And I have it on the screen. Containing the Lions' offensive line is a huge thing. Excuse me. Containing the Lions, period, is a huge thing. The Texans will have to kind of play this game ahead while we are ahead we are ahead in the division. The Texans have to play this game with a sense of urgency because they can't go in here and just lollygag. You have Jared Goff, Amar St. Brown. You have a crazy offensive line, a solid defense. Williams at receiver as well, who can take the top off of a defense, is going to be difficult. And yeah, the Lions are averaging high scoring games in around the low 30s, but the Texans defense is in fourth place. So you have a battle, and the Texans have to contain the Lions as much as possible for the Texans to be successful in this game. So it comes down to more than just blocking. Can the Texans secondary help the Detroit Lions? Can the Texans secondary help? Can they slow down the Detroit Lions in their pass game? We know the Texans can get after the quarterback. Can they make Jared Goff move off of his point and not be comfortable? You hear D'Amico talking about it. You hear the defensive line talking about it. Jared Goff cannot be comfortable in this game. Can they continue the trend of high pass pressure ratings? I think they can. I know Will Anderson is hurt. He's banged up. He probably will not play this game. If he does, it'd be great. But can the Texans stay aggressive and kind of move Jared Goff off of that line? Can they generate enough pass pressure on Jared Goff? The Texans have the number 2 pass pressure rating in the league, and they'll have to use that and rely on this defensive front seven to be successful. And I'm excited to see what the Texans do this game. And it's going to be a difficult game, period. But can the Texans be successful containing the Detroit Lions? And you got to go to the final question in containing the Detroit Lions. Can Bobby Slowick kind of just adjust his scheme to assist the defense in containing the Detroit Lions? That's going to be difficult because Bobby Slowick, it's not just a defensive thing. If the defense is on the field all game, they're going to be tired by the end of the game. It's just nature, it's physiology. Can Bobby Slowick scheme well enough to have consistent, sustained drives throughout the game? Not just the first half and not just the end of the fourth quarter. Can Bobby Sloyd perform and adjust his scheme? He's received a lot of criticism for his play calling, and he will have to get more creative to make the schemes last throughout the game versus just stopping at the beginning of the game. So it's going to be good to see, can the Texans contain the Lions past the Texans O line issue, because it's more than just the O line. The Texans have to do better at containing the Detroit Lions. And as we go into like being is more than just the O line, I have to keep on talking about the impact that Nico Collins has on the Texans. He is a stud. He is a great player for the Texans. But in my notes here, I'm just looking at the impact that Nico Collins has. How will he be? Is it too little, too late? Will he be ready to come to the Texans and be successful this week? I think he's going to make an instant impact because as a defense, you have to key on Nico Collins. He has a big body. The quick passes can get to him quickly, and the defense just have to be prepared. So you have Nico Collins going. Tank Dell's banged up a little bit. And it's huge for the Texans passing game to have that security blanket of Nico Collins out there. I hope that he's truly healthy and that this soft tissue injury does not continue to linger. But having him on the field is enough to overcome some of those offensive inconsistencies that the Texans do show. But ultimately, is it enough to overcome the loss of Stephon Diggs to the ACL injury? That's what the Texans have to answer. Last week against the Jets, they struggled in the the pass game. It was basically due to the offensive line being terrible. But I think there's more than the offensive line. It's a myriad of things that Bobby Slowick has to be able to scheme better. With Nico Collins out there, it gives Bobby Slowick a cushion. You have Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, and CJ Stroud on the same side of the ball. Bobby Slowick has a cushion, and it should be good for them to be successful in this game. I'm excited to see what Nico Collins does for the Houston Texans. I'm excited to see how they play, and he's one of those linchpins for the team, and it's just great to see him out there and doing well. So to keep things rolling, we're going to talk a little bit about the mental game that is coming with this game. I think a lot of people are just looking at the Texans as a overmatched team, and I I have a question for a lot of people because it's not that. Do you really think they're overmatched? The Detroit Lions are not something that's just crazy, right? I think they're good. They're a solid team. They have a lot of tenacity, but the Texans have enough to just compete with them. And I kind of pause there to gather my words because I don't. It's not that I don't think the Texans can compete with the Lions because they can. The Texans just have to put it together. They've identified the issues. They just have to put it together. And the Texans also have to get over this primetime game hump. There's a primetime game hump that, as a Texans fan, if you've been here since 2002 or 1999 when the team was kind of pushed out there, and the Texans are not a primetime team. We struggle in prime time to the point where people have called them frauds. Even against the Jets, they were called frauds. So, can they kind of just uphold and overcome the mental games that have been played and plagued the team throughout its history? Can they shake off the label that they can ride? They can ride. Excuse me. Can they shake off the label and rise to the occasion of these prime time games? This is the mental game the Texans have going, and they have to do better with these time games. As a Texans fan, you have to look at this and say, Texans, get ready. Nico, get ready. D'Amico has to be on point. He has to call a play in a scheme and uphold the accountability for the team. I just don't want to talk in word soup, but you see that they have to put together the scheming for the team, making the plays on in prime time, not just the noon games, not just against the bad teams, not just in the first half, against the prime time teams every time. And Bobby Sloak has to scheme up enough of an offense to score in both halves. I think they could do it. I think they can do it. I think tomorrow will be a day they can do it. I will be there to witness them do it. I'm excited for this game. I'm excited for this game. But also in prime time, I think the Texans did a phenomenal move by making the X Factor, Joe Mixon, a captain. By them making Joe Mixon a captain, you show you want tenacity to lead this team and go out there and change things. He has been a true dog and a baller for the Houston Texans. And I want to emphasize that Joe Mixon is a dog. If he was on Colorado, he would have a D on his chest for dog. No pause, just dog. And that is what the energy Joe Mixon brings. He's a spark plug, a linchpin, and a fixture for the Texans. And I hate that Bobby Slowick goes away from the run when Joe Mixon is on the roll because he would have more than 96 yards at the end of the game. He would have over that. He's making the Texans offensive line get a better pass, a PFF rating because they would be beneath 23. Joe Mixon has intensity on the field, and that's what the Texans need. And I am glad that the Texans made Joe Mixon a captain for the team. This has been phenomenal. It's a good news. Yeah, man, they are a dog. Um, yeah, I see you out there, Brandon, man. Hey, shout out to you, Brandon. I think you made a post. I watch you. I watch a lot of your posts that pop up on a lot of the things. I've just seen this come on my laptop. Yeah, man, you are one of the true Texans fans. If you're still on, shout out to you. I see your posts. They're it's dope. I think the same thing as you sometimes. So it's great to see, man. Definitely share the page. Hope you get some more subscribers to the page. I love the Texans, and I like what you talk about. So shout out to you, Brandon. But yeah, I want to see what Anderson Jr. If he was there, it would be crazy. But honestly, I think they'll be fine with what they have. The Texans have one of the best front sixes. We don't even play a front seven. We play a front six, and we've been solid. So I'm interested to see if D'Amico's even going to go with the front 4-3 because D'Amico can go with a 4-3 this time, actually. So it's going to be crazy to see how they come out against the Lions, and I'm excited for this game, man. I'm excited. But even to go with this trend, you have to go with the stat tracker, right? And I want to talk about some of the stats that you do see for the Texans. I mean, the Texans have been kind of solid, more solid than people give them credit for. More solid than people give them credit for. The Lions are first in the NFL in points per game, but they are not the best at rushing or passing yards. They're just scorers. They do well. The Texans struggle at scoring. However, we have one of the better defenses. So when you put those things together, it's going to be a battle. And I don't think Jared Goff has seen a pressuring defense like the Texans. So it's going to be nice to see the defense and offensive lines battle. And I think we will take the edge on this game, right? And when I say that if Will Anderson Jr. was there, it'll be crazy. But now the Texans' interior offensive line is solid as they come. And you see that with Tim Settle surgeons, and you see that with Fudakasi, he was a little bit banged up. But also, one thing for the Texans have on their side is Taylor Decker is out for the Detroit Lions. With Taylor Decker out, that leaves Hunter able to go crazy. So I'm excited to see that. But excited to see that. Um I'm not mad at Will Anderson being out, but I definitely think that we can take advantage of Taylor Decker being out because there's going to be some inconsistencies on the Detroit Lions offensive line. You can't. It's just hard for offensive line to make up for a left tackle gap, and Hunter will have a feast this game. But also, we get Jerry Hughes out there, Derek Barnett, and a host of other people. You have Danico Autry can slide out there, and then Dylan Horton. So the Texans' defensive line is solid, and they have depth, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do for that. Just a lot of work. Lost my screen here. A lot of work going on in the Texans. So as I kind of come to a close, I wanted to kind of give a Saturday night pregame hype. I'm excited for this game. Let's talk about the spread. And I haven't made no bet. I'm not gonna bet this game honestly because I don't feel like it. And I just bought a ticket. But looking at the spread for this game, it's still at minus 3.5 points. I think. Yeah, most places have it at minus 3.5 for this game. Let me see. Make sure I'm not saying anything crazy. Yeah, most places have it at minus 3.5, and the Lions for the Lions in favor of the Lions. But I think the Texans can sneak this one out. Candy red, candy paint. They're gonna go crazy in that regard. So what are you guys betting? I think the over and under for this game is at 48.5. Let's see total. Yep, the over and under it kind of averages at 48.5. There's a couple 49.5s. I am gonna go with the under here. I think the Texans kind of just stay underneath this and it'll be a slower, methodical game. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. So in closing, I just discussed a few things with the Texans. It's my pregame hype. I'm ready. It's Saturday night. It's 12:02, so it's game day today. The Texans will take on the Detroit Lions at the stadium in the H. Candy red. The end zones are painted. We talked about the offensive line improvements. We talked about will the Texas offensive line improve. We talked about it's more than an offensive line. It's more than just w- Keen Green issues, more than just Bobby Slowick. It's about containing the Lions. We also rolled through. We also talked about Nico Collins coming back. What will his return look like? I think it's going to be a great return and better for Bobby Slowick. Then I went into discuss a little bit about the mental game, about the Houston Texans taking on the Detroit Lions. It's a mental game, and it's going to be tough for the Texans. And we talked a little bit about the stat tracker. I'm Lance Hayes. It's Sports Social Live. It's game day in the H. I'm not tired. I'm lit. I'm prepared for today's game. Let's get it. Like, subscribe, share Sports Social Live on YouTube, at Sports Social TV on X, IG, and you can find us